And I would say it was about 2017 when I had a monumentous event, and we can get into that later. But it was literally a light switch moment where that's when my atheism stopped, because the voice and what the voice was saying and doing within me, it was non-local, bro.
What do you mean? What was the voice?
So I was on this annual fishing trip, and this fishing trip was my escape every year, right? Escape from the life I didn't like. And I remember like it was yesterday, watching my father fish. We were fly fishing the Grand Ronde River, and if anyone's ever been to the Grand Ronde, you know that they have the bighorn sheep, and the bighorn sheep are just clash. And I remember looking up to watch them in my stupid hungover state. And it was like, and I shit you not, it was like they stopped, looked at me, and the look I got from them was, who are you to think you can watch this happen? You don't even believe in the creator. And I was like, whoa. And then the word suicide hit me like a ton of bricks. It wasn't like auto, it was just a download. And I was like, what was that? I had no conscious knowledge of any self-harm or anything like that. Wouldn't surprise me if we dug deep to find subconsciously there was some stuff going on, but nothing outwardly. And I was like, what was that? Hit again. And I go weak. What the hell was that? What is this all about? And I'm saying it out loud. What is that? And then I go, who are you talking to? You don't even believe in anything, right? So that set the wheels in motion of this whole, what we call an awakening. The Kundalini started rising, baby. And then after that, I got into holistic health, yoga, all that stuff. But at that time, I was very much ingrained in those lower levels, the below 100. And as I started getting into this holistic way of living, more integral way of thinking and doing, I started seeing the world different. I mean, it was like I was transplanted in a completely different world. And I'm like, what the hell is going on? It was quantum leaps. Just Friday, I didn't recognize who I was compared to Monday. And what I realized now is I started getting really honest with myself and my situation, which was something that was not a pattern for me in my life. And what I know now is the minute you can put your pride aside, have the courage to tell the truth and admit what's tough to admit, you all of a sudden change your vibration. Now, how much time and energy do we spend doing the opposite, right? The answer is right here. It's right there. The answer is there. I don't like that. So I'm going to spend all my time and energy going around it. And that's how my life was. That's exactly what I was doing. Nothing was my fault. Nobody was acceptable in my views. Nobody did a good enough job. Nobody worked hard enough. Nobody appreciated me enough. And gee, I wonder where that came from. Right?
Maybe from childhood.
Yeah, from me, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was how I saw myself in the world.
Our childhood lives within us, and our epigenetics are turned off and on by our environment and whatever's inside of us that hasn't been processed. Yeah. But I almost remember, I'm flashing back to a call we had many years ago where there was this connection to your father.
Yes.
And that connection was something at the time you were working on. Was that something that was buried when the ram horns clashed each other and they all of a sudden stared at you? And by the way, was this a moment where they both turned and looked at you, like with their eyes hit yours?
What really happened, I couldn't tell you, but in my memory, that's exactly what happened.
Okay, so this is like a true spark spiritual awakening moment by a fucking stream in the middle of nature.
Literal.
And you had never done any deep spiritual work before that point?
I'd never even meditated. And what I know now was that was my week of meditation.
And what year was this?
2017.
Okay, so like literally 5 years ago. Yeah. Wait, 5 years ago? No, 2017, seven years ago. Yeah. Wow.
Probably 5 years ago when we first spoke.
That's right. That's right. So 7 years ago, you had this moment where you heard the clash of horns from animals in nature, and they looked at you, and it awakened something in you. Yes. But it was crazy because the voice that you said, which obviously was like God coming through you,
absolutely,
that voice said suicide. What do you make of that?
Yes.
What is that?
So I actually got an answer to that. Later on, I ended up getting into meditation, and thanks to my work with Paul Chek and the Institute, we got into Carl Jung a lot, and so I got into this meditation, and I was like, I remember I was like done with my meditation, and like the little rascal in me, he's like, oh, ask the question. So I was like, oh yeah, what was that suicide shit all about? And I got an instant download. You needed to kill the current version of yourself. And I get chills now even thinking about it, because later on, maybe I'd stumbled across this dynamic earlier on, and it was coming out subconsciously, but I wasn't aware. Later on in studying Carl Jung's work, he made that statement himself, a man must kill his current version of himself in order to become who he truly is, or something like that, paraphrasing here.
Amen.
And so that's where that came from. Did that answer your question? I'm sorry.
For sure. Okay. Suicide, because I was thinking,
where did it come from?
Was it you wanting to kill yourself? Which is, unfortunately, sadly, I know that word touches so many people in the audience, because we've done podcasts on grief, and I know there's somebody watching or listening that's had somebody unfortunately take their life, which is so sad. But it wasn't about actually taking your life. It was letting the previous life die.
Yes, taking my life back.
Taking your life back, letting that. So what did it actually feel and look like? Because this is the catalyst, right? The catalyst for you to let go of the grocery and like the old corporate model and step into what we all go through, which is like fumbling around. How do I build a website? What's a lead magnet? How do I get clients? How do I make money? How do I live my dream? How do I live my purpose? Yeah. We stumble around for a little bit. And I think it's honestly, bro, that stumbling and that intimidation that keeps people stuck exactly where they are, married to the life that's sucking all the vitality out of them. It's the fear of what it might look like, or the uncertainty of what it might look like for me to change my life, and that I must have more courage than I have now. But I disagree, and I wonder how you feel. It's not that we have to have this huge bolus of courage in order to face our fear. Right. We actually generate the courage by doing the thing that scares us. Ralph Waldo Emerson, do the thing and you'll have the power.
Yes.
So what was that like for you, especially at that time? You had kids, you were married, you had a fat, juicy 401k. This is not the grounds for most people to make a jump into uncertainty.
Yes.
So what exactly was that for you?
I had to admit that everything that you thought was important in life is 90% wrong. What I got right was family's important, love and connection are important, providing is important. And it was that providing element that brought up all the doubt. But then you got to ask yourself, what does providing mean? And I asked myself, what does providing mean? Financially, sure. But for me, what gifts can I really give the world? Because that's what my children represent to me. And it's like, dude, you'll never be the guy, at least in this state, where financial provision is going to be your big legacy. But I do know that I know how to be healthy. I do know that I know how to get strong. I do know that I know how to look at my thoughts and my emotions and how they affect me and everyone around me. It doesn't mean I'm always good at it, but I do know that. How valuable would that be to my children? So can you admit that you're choosing to share that only in a limited capacity while you spend all your time earning six figures? Earning six figures is great, but making $100,000 a year is just enough to keep you trapped and keep you stuck.
Sure.
You don't feel wealthy. You feel completely morally bankrupt because you're given 60 hours a week to some evil corporation. And I say that with, on a literal level, for the corporation I was working for. I can't say for anyone else listening what their corporation's like, but the corporation I was working for was absolutely evil.
Who was it?
I can't say because they made me sign a non-disclosure agreement.
All right.
So that they would give me 4-week severance after 21 years of employment.
Because maybe they knew they were evil.
They did. Well, yeah.
Interesting.
There's a whole story behind that.
Okay.
Too, but we can get into something.
Maybe we'll get into it.
Maybe,
okay.
maybe
I'm
not.
really curious about this because, in meditation this morning, I was sitting in the 5 minutes that I had. Sometimes that's all we get, dude. We get like 5 minutes to just, okay, what do I want to create? And I was feeling into it and I was thinking about this title, Biohacking Truth, There's so much distraction in the world that people maybe that are in your old version working at the corporate job that they don't love. I know I'm speaking to somebody's heart right now. I can actually feel them. I can feel their frustration. I can feel their discontent. I can see them. And I know where you are because I was there, my friend, in 2015. I was right there. 2014, 2015. I had sold my soul for this providership that I thought I was supposed to do, that somehow I would keep my dreams in one bucket and I would have my professional responsibilities in the other. I didn't know that I could create my own reality with thought and merge those two worlds. It wasn't a thing for me.
Right.
I just didn't have the consciousness, right? So I can look back on that previous version of Josh with love and compassion. but also I'm speaking to the person who's with us now. You don't have to have it all figured out. You don't have to have all the T's crossed and the I's dotted, but you do have to have a few ingredients. Now, what do you think those ingredients are when you look back on your story? And just speak in the affirmative. Like let's say somebody is right now exactly where you used to be.
Yes.
And describe where you are now. You're coaching people across the world. You're leading movements on social media. You're getting people into their bodies. You're having them breathe and think well and move and all the different things that you're doing at biohackingtruth.com. But back in the day, you weren't.
Yes.
So what did you need then that you have the wisdom to look back on now? If you could have given yourself like 3 ingredients back then to make the jump, what are those ingredients for that person who's stuck there now?
For me, it was authenticity, acceptance, and love.
Make sure you subscribe to the podcast. Click the link if you want to watch the full episode, and I will see you in the next video.